welcome to Woman on Fire TV. I am your host, Allison, and we're coming from Toronto, Canada. Today we have with us one of our global entrepreneurs, Miss Narissa Golden from the beautiful island of Montserrat. Narissa, hello and welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me, Allison. Congratulations on this new project.
Awesome, thank you so much. With entrepreneurialism being like a whole new frontier for women, it's amazing to see women all over the globe, not just in Toronto, in the States, but in the islands, in Africa, other continents, jumping on board and becoming business owners. So we're pleased to be able to share what you do with other business owners all over the world, because we think we're by ourselves. And we're not. So it's amazing to see you. You're a mom of 4. You're doing amazing things, and you're doing this all in a beautiful island. So tell us a little bit about your business. What exactly do you do?
Okay, so my company is called Golden Media, and we basically leverage all platforms, new and traditional media, to support our clients' goals. And I am a mother of 4, as you mentioned, and they're probably the biggest motivation for getting up every day and doing what I love.
That's awesome. What made you start this company? We are accustomed being wives and going to work and so on. What propelled you into being an entrepreneur and into this field?
Well, I think I always had entrepreneurial tendencies, even as a child. If I saw something that I wanted to do, especially on TV, but it wasn't available in whichever island I was living in, because my family did travel a lot, I just went out and created it. So I was creating dance groups, plays, all sorts of things, anything to bring the world to me.
Okay, great. And we have a lot of difficulties when we start a business or when we're in business. It could be a year, 2 years. Some people run into difficulties 5 years into the business. What is one of your main challenges in owning your own business on an island like Montserrat?
Population of 5, and you would have to think that the working population is probably less than half of that. So most of my clients are actually not based in Montserrat. It's why I leverage technology. It's why I love it so much, because it really allows me to have clients all over the world. I have served clients as far as Hong Kong and Australia. And so I don't allow location to be my limitation. And that is actually one of the recurring themes I hear when I speak to entrepreneurs, is where I live is too small, or the market's too small, or there are other people I have lots of competition. But technology allows us to eliminate all of those barriers and just serve the world with our particular style of service.
Okay, awesome. And it's true, with technology being the new frontier, we can be anywhere. I could be in Toronto and doing stuff with people like yourself in Montserrat. So that's amazing, because you think about, what's the population of Montserrat? So thank you for pointing that out. So it doesn't matter how many people are right around you, you can break those barriers by going global.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think if more women did that, they would begin to see the possibilities really are endless for them. The minute that we feel restricted by our location and our size, then we definitely restrict our growth as well.
That's great. A lot of women who are starting out, what sort of advice would you give to people starting out like yourself, especially on an island like where you are? There's so many different countries in the Caribbean. What kind of advice would you give to young ladies or people saying, I want to do what Narissa's doing, but I live in Antigua or I live in Barbados. How can I do this? What advice would you give to them to start off?
Well, this advice is basically for any woman anywhere in the world. It starts with the end in mind. I use what I call the Noah principle. And if you know the biblical story, Noah is given this vision to build this big ark, a vessel that he's never seen. He has no clue how to create. But God said, build an ark. But then what God did was every day as he slept, he would give him a vision of how to do a particular thing. So after you have the big vision, you have to break it down into what you can manage and execute daily. So it's why you would set a target to say, all right, I want to make $1 million in 6 months. And then you can decide, okay, how much money do I need to make every month to hit my 6-month target, and how much money do I need to make by the week and by the day. And all of these things would help us to create a strategy, and then we can execute and we can tweak it and say, wait a minute, I didn't hit my target this month or the second month. It means now I've got to double up in the last 4 months. You've got to start with the end in mind. Do not start, even though you start small, your vision must still be big. And often we think, if I just start out now and just charge you $50, then next month you'll be okay with me switching it to $500. That's two totally different mindsets. And so you need to begin to start out where you want. If you know you're offering a $500 product, offer it at $500 right from the start, because it's going to be very hard for people to shift to suddenly wanting to give you an increased value when they haven't seen you do anything additional. And before I ever got married, had kids, I always saw myself with my children around me. So I knew I wanted a life that would include children, but that would include lots of flexibility. So I basically have created the life I want, where I do work from home, but I'm available to them to be able to serve them in the ways that they need me. They're all very active, and so I have to have a flexible schedule to do that. I'm thankful that they're now older. They're all going in the teens or going into teens, and so they need me differently. It means that I can travel a little more now because they don't require me to be physically present for everything. They're quite self-sufficient, and I love that about them.
That's great, because there's a lot of single moms out there, and we like to know that we can do this. We got this. We can take care of the kids, and we can take care of the family, and we can still run a successful business. So kudos for you for being a single mompreneur. Now tell me something, what in your business, how long have you been in business, Nerissa?
The company has had several iterations. I would say it's been probably 17 years total. The Golden Media, the company as it is now, is probably less than 10 years old.
Okay, great. And tell me one of your most favorable moments, one of your most phenomenal moments you've had in, let's say, 10 years. What's your most memorable moment?
Well, I suppose there are many, because I do try to have a very diverse clientele and not restrict myself to one area. I think one project that was a lot of fun for me was having a telecoms company hire me to travel with them around the region and tell their story. So all expenses paid, and I just got to do what I love, which was to write and take photos. I mean, what's better than that?
Exactly. That's true. And what does the future look like for Nerissa?
That's a really good question. 2017, I made the decision that I was going to invest more in my own creative works. So I published my first novel in a series. It's a series of romance novels, but also deal with what I love most, which is teaching entrepreneurship and motivating women. So I've kind of blended it too. I'm really excited about the project. And I'm also working on television scripts, film scripts. I'm really back into writing mode and just creating more of my work to add to the marketplace. What I hope Golden Media will be doing for the foreseeable future would be pumping out more of our own content, as well as continue to support the clients that we.
Okay, great. We're talking about children being our motivators. Are your children? What motivates you? What makes you jump out of bed in the morning? What's your biggest motivator?
To accomplish everything I've seen in my mind to do, everything I feel that God has asked me to do, I want to execute it. I want to leave the world a little better than I got it. And I want to make sure that I've created a platform for my children to be able to stand on, rather than they having to start all over again. I really want to do the work that's meaningful, but that leaves them resources and leverage that they can use to just fulfill their dreams as well.
Okay, great. And, why we do what we do? How do you celebrate yourself? as Narissa? What do you do for pleasure? What do you enjoy doing? Give me one of your favorite books you like to cuddle back with, roll back in the bed and enjoy.
Okay, I love a good political thriller. So I love David Baldacci and Brad Thor. I can binge watch a few movies on a weekend, especially now that I'm writing. I do use it as a bonus, you know. It's okay, if I hit my target, then I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch an old Die Hard movie or whatever. I love old movies, old action movies. So I suppose that would be my thing. I love good action movies.
Okay, awesome. So you're a Fast and Furious fan?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, great. What's your favorite food? What's your favorite dish to have? To cook, to go to a restaurant? What's your favorite food in the world?
Okay, my favorite food in the world, I actually have never made it, but my mom makes the best version of it. It's called dukna. It's an Antiguan dish made with sweet potatoes, and I just love it.
Okay, maybe when she sees it, she'll make some for you. It's good.
She usually does and saves it in the fridge, you know. She lives on the market now, but every time she makes, she will save me one. So I need to actually go down and collect some now.
I just tricked that memory, right? You're like, oh, I got some waiting for me somewhere. That's awesome. That's good. What's your favorite quote? Who do you follow? Who's your favorite quote? Who do you look for? Some people love Maya Angelou, Zig Ziglar. Who's your favorite person? And what's your favorite quote?
You know, my favorite quote is one that I was the first one to hear me say it. I'm sure other people have, but it came out when I was writing. I think it was The Making of the Caribbeanpreneur. It's that it takes the same amount of time to come up with an excuse as it does to come up with a solution. And so I try to remind myself of that every time I find myself excuses as to why I can't do it. I say, you know what, if I could come up with an excuse, it also means I could come up with a solution. So let's work on it.
I like that tip. That's a great tip. Tell us again.
It takes the same amount of time to come up with an excuse as it does to come up with a solution.
Awesome. I love that. So Narissa, tell us where we can find you again online. If you have a Twitter, Instagram, please share with us, and how people can reach you if they're interested in your services. And tell us a few of exactly what it is you do.
I offer several services right now, primarily for clients looking for media support. I design media strategies for them. They can be short-term or long-term campaigns. I also, for women, I have a program called Lady Maverick, where I work with them to get through their challenges of starting the business, growing their business. And the easiest way to reach me is narissagolden.com. I am also on Instagram at Narissa_Golden, and on Twitter, Truly Narissa.
Okay, great. So Narissa, it was such a pleasure chatting with you. Hopefully one day we make it to Montserrat, or you make it to Toronto and drop by our studio. That's awesome. Thank you for your information. I love your tips. Love chatting with you. Thank you so much for being part of our global project, bringing women from around the world to Women on Fire TV, so that other women can take a look at them and be inspired and motivated to do what they love to do with a passion, and then turn around and monetize that. So thank you, Narissa Golden, for being part of Women on Fire TV.
Thank you for having me, and I wish you all the success in the world. The world's your oyster.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Narissa. So we are with Narissa Golden from Montserrat. We're so pleased to have her on the show. This is Women on Fire TV. I am your host, Allison Harvey. Hello and welcome to Women on Fire TV. My name is Allison Harvey and I'm your host for this evening. We have with us Debbie Montgomery of Florida. Hey Debbie, how are you? And welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. So glad to be here.
Awesome. I know it's been a long wait, and I do apologize for that, but with technical difficulties, and we had to fly all the way from Toronto to Florida. So we're in Florida now.
There you go. Welcome.
There you go. So Debbie, you were in Toronto at Woman on Fire, and we had an amazing time hearing about your book and yourself and all of that. But for people who don't know you, I would love for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay. Well, my name is Debbie Montgomery, and actually I've recently married, so I go by Johnson, so it's Debbie Montgomery Johnson. I am from Florida, but originally I grew up in Vermont in a small town of Woodstock. And I spent a lot of time in New England and then in North Carolina. I went to school in North Carolina, but the majority of my working life, I was actually an Air Force officer. I was an intelligence officer for the United States Air Force in Washington, D.C., and also in Germany. And I loved it. I met my first husband was in the Air Force with me, and we traveled between D.C. and Germany for many, many years. Lou wanted to get out of the service, and I did too when we were having children. We have 4 children, and we moved to Florida.
Okay, awesome.
And so here.
So you've lived in Florida for quite a while.
I've lived in Florida over 20 years now, which is probably the longest I've lived anywhere.
Okay, that's great. I'm only here in Canada a little bit longer than that, so it's cool. We're both in different places from where we started off, so that's awesome. Tell me something. You are a writer. You're an author. You won the Woman on Fire Award, so congratulations for that. And so tell me, how did you come about starting your own business? What made you start to be a writer, to promote it as an entrepreneur?
Well, there's a couple different stories that as far as starting the company, my company is called benfotiamine.net. And I ended up running that because my husband Lewis passed away. He had a sudden heart attack and died. And I was thrown into running this international company, one that I had never really worked on. And so it took 6 months for me to really work with his vendors, work with his customers, work with people that would help me learn how to run that company. And that was the hardest thing for me, was to learn the A to Z. I had to learn everything about this company to keep it going, because we had several thousand customers and they relied on the vitamin supplement that we provided, and it also paid the bills. So that was very important for me to keep that going. Where the book came in, it had nothing to do with the company. The book came about 2 years after Lou died. Some friends of mine had said, Deb, you need to get a life besides work. And so they wanted me to start dating again, which I really didn't want to do, especially in person. So they said, try online dating. And so I did, and I dipped my toe, and it went on for 2 years. And I met a lovely gentleman from London, and he was an international businessman. And so my book came about because I chronicled our 2 years together in my journal. I wrote every day, and it was amazing. I had 4,000 pages of journal, which was absolutely wonderful. I thought it would be a great family history for my kids. Well, that didn't turn out to be exactly what I used the journal for, but the book came about because I found out from Eric himself, the gentleman himself, who actually came online and confessed that the 2-year romance, which I never saw him in person because he was overseas, but it turned out to be a scam, and it was a very, very financially devastating scam. And I had sent him money to help him with his business, and if anybody had known me, they would have thought I'd be the last person in the world to have ever sent money to somebody that I didn't know. But over those 2 years, Eric became my life. And his life was my life, and all the events that happened with him really happened to me, because every night every day we wrote for hours and hours and hours. And my book, which is called The Woman Behind the Smile, Triumph Over the Ultimate Online Dating Betrayal, is really it chronicles me from the inside out, from when I was young, and how I was able to hide things, how I could put on that perfect smile and just be fine to the world. And after Lou died, I was the strong one. I was the one that kept the family together. I was the one, kind of like the glue that kept everybody together. And I would put on that smile and say I was fine, when inside I was totally dying. We all do it. We all want to be perfect. We all want to be put together. And especially in business, we want to look right. And, we put on the lace and the pearls, and we want to be perfect. And I realized that after I'd been taken so badly, and even the FBI said I was a victim, I said, I don't want to be a victim. I have never been a victim in my life. It's time for me to stand up. But it's very difficult to admit that something's happened to you, that you feel you were stupid, you feel like you were used, and to own up to that is very difficult. And it took time. I mean, I didn't tell my kids, I didn't tell my friends, I didn't tell anybody about what happened. And it was just devastating to me inside. But I put on that smile and I made up a story that, you know, the reason we weren't dating anymore is it just didn't work out. Well, it didn't work out. So what I learned too at that point was that I needed a team around me, because I was working my company by myself in my home. It's an internet business, so I could run it from the house. And I didn't have a team to talk to me, to watch the way I did my finances, to collaborate, to do anything with me. And I realized, and today I do have a team, and I have consultants, and I have people that I trust, that when I say, hey guys, you know, should I spend money on this, or should I do this project, I get people to give me some input. I'm not doing it all alone. And I think that's hard for solo entrepreneurs, people that are running their own businesses, to reach out and to get help. Because again, you don't want to look like you need help. You want to be self-sufficient. But sometimes, not sometimes, always, it helps to have a sounding board or a board of directors or someone there to help you out. So my book came about because of that. And when I spoke out about what had happened to me, I realized that so many people have been taken by somebody. It may not be financial, it may not be in a romance, but somehow we've been taken, and we need to stand up and find our own power and then speak up about it so that we can help others who may be going through a similar situation.
Tell me something, what actually motivates you? What motivated you to tell your secret, this huge secret that you had? What motivated you to actually come out with all the shame and, you know, the stigma with it, being scammed and so on? What made you actually want to tell?
I was actually at a speaker training. It was called the Business of Speaking, with the women's group I'm involved in here in Florida called the Women's Prosperity Network. And I'd originally gone down to learn how to speak better about my company, because the company was Lou's business. It wasn't mine, and I needed to find a passion in that. Well, at lunch the very first day, I met with a girlfriend, and she said something about online dating, and I must have rolled my eyes at her, because she's like, what is that story? And I revealed what happened, and she said, you have got to tell your story. And I resisted. I said, no, I can't do that. I just feel terrible. And then another woman came up, and she goes, she heard the story. She goes, you have got to tell it, because my mother was taken for $80,000, and I've got friends who were taken. And then another friend came in, and she goes, I was in a Ponzi scheme and was taken for $200,000. And all these women came up to me and said, at some point in their lives, they had been you know, they'd been a victim to something, but they were so afraid to tell it, because it just, we all feel like if we do something wrong, or we, you know, there's a mistake in our lives, that it just cracks our perfection, our persona of perfection. And for some reason, especially women, don't want to show that vulnerability until we sit together and talk.
Yes.
And that's what we did in Toronto, which I absolutely loved, when we had the pajama party and everybody put down their masks and they just relaxed. They opened up. There was no competition. There was no feeling of shame, because I got people to stand up to tell me their stories, and some were pretty tough. I mean, I realized when I hear other women's stories that mine is nothing in comparison. You know, to me it was huge, but at that point I'm so grateful for my own problems, which is amazing. You know, I've been scammed out of so much money, but I realized I've got my health and I've got my family, and I always say that the last suit has no pockets.
Exactly.
So I won't take that money with me, but I can take what I learned from that story and help somebody else.
Once you started, what was your most pivotal, phenomenal moment for you when you started telling your story? Is there one particular time you were like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I did this? So what was one of your most phenomenal moments for sharing this story?
Well, once the book came out, because I had a lot of people that were supporting me and giving me a kick in the pants to get the book done. I did it because I was going to speak on Sharon Frame's Empowerment, the Leadership Cruise, which is actually where you and I met.
Yes.
that very first time that I spoke my story out loud, told my story out loud, my mom was there. And my mother had gone through this with me, but she never heard me tell the story. And there are things in the book that she'd never known before. So just that opening up of myself to my mother was a huge, huge time for me and for her. I think it changed our relationship a lot.
Yeah.
Because I know my mom has put up the mask over the years too. And
I think we all have a mask, eh?
We do. And that allowed us to share things in a way that we never had before. And it's changed my thinking and my way of speaking to my adult children. Because you guys, we are now at a point in our lives where we need to be able to talk honestly and to not shuffle around different topics that might make us feel uncomfortable, because we're not living honestly if we do that.
That's very true. So tell me something, Debbie. What does the future look like for Debbie?
Well, I'm really excited because I actually, you know, every time I get to speak, I'm so jazzed up about the whole about Women Behind the Smile. But I was able to go to California and participate in the California Women's Conference Speak Off, which I don't want to brag, but I'm going to brag because I actually I won it. It was so exciting. It was just one of those things where someone said, "Hey, there's a speak off. Why don't you apply for it?" And I said, "Oh, you know, why not?" So I sent in a video, and wouldn't you know, I was in the top 3 and actually ended up winning it. And with that came a radio show, an internet TV program that I'm going to be hosting starting next fall. And for me, it's just they are vehicles to get the message out. I just want to get out and I want to speak to people. I want to get them to open up and tell their stories, because I see it with young women my daughter's age. They're in their mid-20s, where they're trying to go through life being as perfect as their mothers.
Yes.
And we all do this. We've all done it. And I just want them to realize that we're not perfect. We've done things, but especially with our kids, I think we want to hide what we did because we want them to think that we're just it.
Well, you're gods, right? We're gods as parents. So.
Well, exactly, but that's not realistic. And our kids are comparing us to comparing themselves to us, and it's putting a lot of pressure on them. And I don't want that to be true. I want them to be able to come to me and say, "Hey, Mom, you were taken in this. How did that happen?" Or, "Dad did this. How did that happen?" And I want them to be able to understand that we're not perfect and we need to learn. Especially my kids, because, Lou died suddenly, and that left all of us instantly without a source of, a provider for the family and a father in the house. And 3 out of my 4 children were grown up and they were gone. So they were living their own life. But my youngest was 15 at the time. He was very much affected by his dad not being here. And I am so empathetic to single moms and to those single dads too, because moms die young also. But going alone, doing this alone, and then owning a company and running it alone, it's very difficult, and you really need support around you. The way I could tell my story is that someone held my hand and I had comfort and support, and that was so huge. And to this day, I surround myself with wonderful people that have been through many of the things I've been through, and together we're creating some great things, and that's what I'm excited about.
Awesome. So your future looks great. What I would like to end off with is a couple of favorite things for you. What is your favorite book besides your book?
Besides my own book? I love to read, and so I couldn't tell you just one book, although one does stand out, and it was Bob Burge's The Go-Giver.
What's your favorite movie? A movie you've seen over and over.
My favorite movie. Oh my gosh, Allison, I am such a chick flick person. I love movies. You've Got Mail.
Okay, how many times have you seen it?
Oh gosh, I couldn't even tell you.
Oh wow, you've seen it a lot of times.
A long time ago, because that was AOL. You've Got Mail, so that started a long time ago.
Okay, awesome. And what's your favorite dish? What's your favorite food to eat in Florida? What's your favorite food? Well,
my favorite food to eat is not just from Florida. I love M&Ms.
So you're a chocolate girl. That's awesome.
Chocolate girl.
What's your favorite quote? What's your favorite quote? You always come back to.
If I can add peanuts to my dark chocolate, then I've got protein. So
okay.
my favorite quote is actually my quote, and it's stand up, speak up, and stand up in your power and speak up. And I want everybody to do that. And as I talk, I literally stand up and say, stand up, get up, you know, change your life a little bit. And I heard something today too. I actually did a D-Day with the woman behind the smile, and it was about I don't. And the words I don't can change your life, because too many people say I can't. And if you say I can't, it's very self-defeating, it's very negative. But if you say I don't, it's very purposeful. Like today, I don't wear makeup, I don't wear, you know, I don't drink, I don't do something. It's very powerful to say that you don't get up in the middle of the night and eat ice cream at 2 o'clock. Versus I can't stop. So
that's a good way of looking at it. So Debbie, we're really happy to have you on our show. And where can we find you? Where can we find Debbie Montgomery Johnson?
Well, I can be found at thewomanbehindthesmile.com. Also, I'd love people to write to me, and it's Debbie, D-E-B-B-Y, at thewomanbehindthesmile.com. I'm also on Facebook, and it is actually Debbie Butts, B-U-T-Z, Montgomery Johnson. And there is The Woman Behind the Smile on Facebook. And also my company, which is Benfo Complete, B-E-N-F-O Complete, C-O-M-P-L-E-T-E.com. If you know anybody that has diabetes or neuropathy that suffers from the pain and the pins and needles of that nerve issue, please have them contact us, because it's a very important vitamin supplement that we have.
Okay, awesome. That's great to know. And is that a natural supplement?
It is.
Is that a natural supplement? Okay.
It's a form of vitamin B1, which is thiamine, and it's very
awesome
for diabetes.
Okay, very good. So Debbie, it was such a pleasure having you on Woman on Fire TV. I'm so excited to have you as a person in the States, out of Florida. Thank you for sitting in with us this evening and sharing about your book, where you are, where you're going, and all those awesome things. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Allison. It was such a pleasure, and I can't believe we met each other on a cruise and we've gotten to this point a year later. It's fantastic.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for watching Woman on Fire. We are here with Debbie Montgomery Johnson out of Florida. So stay with us while we make our way back to Toronto and connect with another female entrepreneur in our global tour. Thank you so much for watching Woman on Fire. I am your host, Allison Harvey.